All right, guys, in this one, I want to go over a tweaked build of mine and show you guys a insane build for in-game content on the Warlock. The gameplay you're seeing right now is from a 1600 Master Duality, and as you see, even in here solo, there is no problem staying alive. This build is going to take advantage of a couple different things, and one of the main ones is a hotfix that came through when this season launched. This build is also going to pair extremely well with Arc 3.0, and I know Warlocks with Arc 3.0 are definitely not the greatest, so I really hope this build can change that and show you guys the true potential of what they can actually do. All right, so just jump right into it. The first thing we need to go over is the exotic Karnstein Armlets. This has the exotic perk Vampire's Caress. Melee kills instantly restore a large amount of health and continue to restore health afterwards a short duration. So this exotic is extremely strong, as you've seen in the gameplay. You get melee kills, you get a chunk of health, and it starts health generation. It's kind of like a mini Devour and Restoration combined together into an exotic. Before, these are already pretty good in the game, but what drastically made these a lot better was the fact that Glaives came out. Now, when Glaives did come out, they did not pair together, but with the most recent hotfix, Glaives actually now work with Karnstein Armlets. So even in higher end content like a 1600 Master Dungeon, the Glaive is still going to one-shot enemies and count for melee damage. So you're always going to be getting health back, and you're always going to have that constant duration 24/7. Now, speaking of Glaives, there's a lot you can use. I have the Enigma on right now because specifically in Duality, they're void shields at the end. And another thing I want to note is that you can't run this with any subclass. I do think it pairs the best with Arc, but even if you want to run something like Solar with Restoration, because Restoration and Karnstein Armlets do stack, and take something like a Lubra's Ruin to keep your restoration up as much as possible, you could do that as well. But I definitely think Arc 3.0 is the better pairing, specifically for a couple different reasons that we'll get into. But since we're on the topic of weapons really quick, since I'm mainly going to be using my Glaive just to melee everything, I just like taking a Wish Ender. Honestly, this just does an insane amount of single target damage. It has anti-barrier intrinsic. I would definitely recommend taking a champion based weapon, so any weapon that has a intrinsic champion mod on it for your other weapons, so you can actually deal with champions in game, because this is 100% a in-game build. You can take it into GMs, raids, anything you want to, and it'll do just fine. If you even wanted to run double special weapons, you could do that too. I just like having Wish in there because it hits like a truck and it's almost a special weapon anyway. And then obviously for your heavy weapon, any good DPS weapon is also nice. I just like running Cataclysmic. You can run literally whatever you want to. Now, getting into the subclass, if you watch my Winter Surge video, pretty much it is that exact build, except I changed up the exotic I'm using and the Glaive. So if you've already watched that, you don't really need to watch this unless you just want a refresher. But if you haven't seen that, I'm going to get into everything, and our aspect is going to be Lightning Surge. This is the melee ability where you can slide, do your melee ability, and you're going to turn to a ball of lightning and then just do a huge AoE. This is extremely good for this build because your Glaive has a little AoE. It's way better for single target damage, and if you ever come across a lot of enemies, you can actually just swap off your Glaive, slide, and then Lightning Surge and kill absolutely everything. Lightning Surge is already strong enough in a 1600 activity to one-shot everything, so you don't really need to take things like Winter's Guile like I was doing in my last video. So you can just use Karnstein Armlet so you can get in there and just stay alive. This is extremely good for ad clear, and then if you don't single target damage, you have things like your Glaive. Now, the other aspect I'm taking is Electrostatic Mine. So whenever I defeat a target with Arc abilities or a jolted or blinded enemy, I will actually create an Onyx Trace, and Onyx Trace is mainly Amplify. Amplify is something good because you get that sprint speed to get closer to enemies with your Glaive. And on top of that, this is pretty much going to help you have infinite Lightning Surges with some of our mods paired together. So you're going to always have your ad clear tool available if there is a ton of enemies coming at you. Not during Pulse Grenade because some other mods I'm taking, and I also just have Chaos Reach equipped because it's better than Storm Trance. But for fragments, this is where I think it pairs extremely well. Not only do you have your melee aspect, but you also have the fragment Spark of Resistance. So while you're surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. This is going to be pretty much procced at all times, since you're going to be using a Glaive in melee range. You're slot in to get into melee range. Literally every single moment, this is going to be procced. And if you're pairing this with 100 resilience, which you absolutely should be, you're going to be so tanky. It's actually ridiculous. On top of that, obviously with Karnstein Armlets always healing you and giving you that constant health generation, with all that damage reduction you're getting and all the health regeneration and just instant health, you are completely unkillable if you're around ads that you can kill. And again, some of the gameplay you've seen is in master level content. This is a 1600 section and I'm under light. So you can only imagine if you take this into 90% of the other game, you were literally never going to die. Future rest here. Okay, so while editing this, I also forgot to mention that obviously since you're in there melee and everything, you also have your Glaive to also give you damage reduction. So you have Spark of Resistance, you have 100 resilience, you have your Karnstein Armlets healing you, and you also can block with the Glaive, which blocks like 90% or so damage it's insane. So if you're ever in any predicament, just block and let Karn's team armaments heal you over time, and you are just unkillable. It's actually crazy. Now, the other fragments I'm taking is Spark of Ions. So when I defeat a jolted target, I create an Onyx Trace. Lightning Surge actually does jolt enemies, so if I defeat them, it'll create an Onyx Trace for me, which obviously you will proc Electrostatic Bond, and I can get Amplified. Electrostatic Bond also will create them for me too. It just kind of pairs together nicely so you can get them as much as possible. This again will help get your melee back a lot. Now, Spark of Amplitude, so when I rapidly defeat targets while I'm amplified, I create Orbs of Power. I'm going to be amplified 24/7, literally just killing everything on my glaive. I'm spawning Orbs of Power, which is really, really nice. It kind of gives your melee a route to spawn Orbs of Power. Then finally, I'm taking Spark of Feedback, so taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. You can honestly change this out for literally anything you want to. Unfortunately, this does not work with the glaive, but it does work with your other normal melees. But honestly, some of the other fragments aren't even super worth taking. You're not throwing grenades. You're not, ever reloading your guns. You're not ever going to be low enough health to even proc some of these things, and you're always going to be amplified. You don't need to finish people to get amplified. Maybe taking Spark of Focus would be a little better option, so if you need your rift up a little bit more. But yeah, this last fragment slot is kind of up to you. Maybe if you just want to take an Arc Glaive on Spark of Beacon, so you can get a shot with the glaive and blind everything around you. That could be really cool too. Now in stats, like I said, 100 resilience is definitely necessary, especially get that damage reduction paired with Spark of Resistance. You're very, very tanky. And I also run 100 strength just to make sure I get my melee back as fast as possible. You don't need 100 strength for this build, since your mods and wells and Onyx Traces are going to pretty much get you back to 100% anyway. If you want to put this in other stats, you can, but I like having it in strength just to make sure I get it back. Now, the first one I'm going to be running is Melee Wellmaker, so I can get a Elemental Well spawn when I get a power melee kill. So this means when I kill enemies with Lightning Surge, I spawn an Arc Elemental Well. I do have a hands-on to get more super energy when I get melee kills, and a glaive ammo finder if I ever need to get some ammo for my glaive. Now, I'm also going to be running Elemental Charge. So when I pick up that Arc Elemental Well I become charged with light. This is going to play really well into some of my other mods. I'm also running a bow reloader since I am taking Wishender, and I like to have a spot open for other champion mods. So, if you ever need to switch anything, depending on what in-game content you're doing, and you can obviously take off bow reloader as well and just run whatever champion mod as well. So now I'm also going to be running Well of Striking. So whenever I pick up an Arc Elemental Well, I'm actually going to get more melee energy. So I'm going to always have Arc Elemental Well spawning with Lightning Surge. This means I just get more melee energy back, which is going to be nice. I do run a Concussive Dampener and Thermoshock Plating for survivability as well, because survivability is key to this build. Now I'm also running Bountiful Well. So what this does is going to make my Elemental Well mods that create wells stack, but if you only run in one, it would actually just give you an additional well, which is really, really nice. So now when I get a Lightning Surge kill, I'll actually generate 2 Arc Elemental Wells that are giving me more melee energy because of Well of Striking. Now I'm also running Double Recuperation. This is also going to be good for survivability, so whenever I pick up an Orb of Power, I replenish some health. If you go back to the subclass, Spark of Amplitude is going to make me create Orbs of Power when I get rapid kills while I'm amplified. So again, you're going to be doing that 24/7. This is going to give you a lot of health back, which is really, really nice. Then finally, the main mod, Heavy Handed. This is going to make it when I'm charged at light, I can actually restore half of my melee energy when I use my charge melee. So if you remember, Melee Wellmaker is going to spawn Arc Elemental Wells. I will get charged at light by picking them up with Elemental Charge. It's going to be a constant loop. You're never going to not be charged at light if you keep getting your melee kills constantly, and you're always going to be getting that half energy back. Between getting 50% of your melee energy back with this mod on top of your Arc Elemental Wells giving you extra melee energy and spawning 2 of them, and on top of Onyx Traces coming to you every time you kill enemies that are jolted or with an arc ability, this is going to let you get 100% uptime on your melee ability, and you can always have your Lightning Surge active 24/7 if you do need to kill a large room of adds. Now I am also running 1-2 finisher just in case my melee ability does not want to come back or something happens in the game. I can just go finish an enemy. It's going to require a little bit of my super energy, but the good thing about the Warlock, those supers on Arc Inferno are pretty bad, so you could just actually take advantage of that, but always have your melee up, which is actually good. Then also run Surge Detonator, so my Arc Grenades can actually stun Overload champions. I'm never going to use my Arc Grenade for Ad Clear since my melee does that, so I can just kind of have that saved up, at like a 50 discipline, so I can get it back relatively quick, and I can just throw it on an Overload champion and it stuns them. That's why I like to run Pulse Grenade, because it stays there for a while and it's just extremely easy to actually stun the champions. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the build. It's extremely simple. Literally, the gameplay of this is just to run up to enemies and just melee them like crazy with the glaive. That's literally all you have to do. You have your other weapon to take out champions. You can obviously insert a champion mod wherever you need to go. And between 100 resilient, Spark of Resistance, and Karn's team armlet's always healing you, you just cannot die even in master level content. And you also have that infinite Lightning Surge ability as well to just Ad Clear a bunch of enemies if there are just a pile of them in one area. I'm not joking when I say I think this is the best Arc 3.0 Warlock build. With the hotfix that make glaives work with Karn's team armlets, this build has just risen to the top, and I definitely think you're going to see a lot more of it. It's extremely fun. If you want to give it a try, I will have a dim link to this build in the description below. And also, if you enjoy and want to see more content just like this, consider subscribing, drop a like, and turn those notifications on. Also, if you want to join my Discord or follow me on any of my socials, all that will be linked in the description below. But but I just want you to know that watching this video is way more than enough. Every single bit of support from y'all is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.